Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest, the Snyder Cut Round Tables. I'm Daniel from the Reasons I'm Broke podcast. Incredibly lucky, privileged to be hosting today's Snyder Cut Round Tables with this slew of amazing guests, one of which I've done a few of these already with. That is Haruko. Welcome back to the Snyder Cut Round Tables. Haruko, how are you?
Good. Thanks for having me back. It's good to be back, everyone. Hope you didn't miss my face too much. When I saw the opportunity to come back, I just had to come back, and I'm looking forward to. Well, we have some interesting topics to discuss today. We have a lot of things to go over today, and I've got a lot to say. So let's get it going.
Awesome. And then I also have, for the first time ever, I haven't done a Snyder Cut Roundtable before, but Kareem, welcome to the Snyder Cut Roundtables.
Thank you so much, Daniel. It's good to be here. I'm very glad to join you in this conversation today.
Yeah, very much appreciate you joining us. Absolutely. And finally, we've got Vega, who's done so much for the movement as well, along with any single person that even put out a single tweet out there. We have, once again, Vega joining us today.
How's it going, Dan? Thank you for having me. As you said, you and Haruko have done it together. Me and Kareem have done it.
Yeah.
So it's dope, though. I'm excited to touch on the topics we're going to discuss. They're all important to the movement and to what's going on. And I think we all have something to say, and that's what we're here for,
Absolutely. Really excited to dive into this, especially on this week. It seems like whenever I've been doing a couple of these, something big kind of breaks, and very lucky, but we've got the big news here coming out of Forbes, and it's been all over Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and we're going to cover the heavier topic first before we go into the positives, into the future of the DCEU. And this is with Ray Fisher talking to Forbes and going into details about what happened on the set and off the set of Justice League. And he went into more specifics about what he meant with the toxic behavior that went on from not just, I call him Joey Whedon, Joseph Whedon himself, and then other people like Toby and Jeff, but more specifically went after Joss. And one of the things here, I have a couple of quotes, but the one that I want to get your thoughts on is this first one, in saying that, quote, "For one thing, the cast and crew were told that Zach had handpicked Joss to finish the film for him. I didn't find out until the reshoots that was a complete lie," end quote. So we got that out of Ray Fisher right off the bat, kind of clarifying how and what he said at Comic-Con. So let's get your thoughts first, Kareem. We'll start off with you.
Well, it comes as no surprise to the statement that Ray Fisher just presented, because obviously it felt wrong from the start. I mean, Zach clearly quit the production of the Justice League, or post-production, whatever you want to call it, so he can mourn with his family, so he can get some personal time. And all of a sudden, you see these statements where Zach has supposedly approved of Joss Whedon taking on the mantle. And I remember once I even saw Ben Affleck saying, yeah, well, Joss Whedon is a great guy, and he's going to merge the beautiful visuals of Zack Snyder onto a beautiful emotional story that Joss Whedon knows how to deal with. Like, Whedon is known for his supposed good scripts in the industry. But then when I saw the visuals of the Joss Whedon cut, I realized he wasn't trying to merge anything. I realized he wasn't trying to honor Zack Snyder's work. I realized he was just taking the piss out on something that was incredibly worked on, and a lot of diverse cast and crew members were putting their sweat and bloods into it. So it comes as no surprise as to what Ray Fisher is trying to say. That's for one. Two, for all we know, it goes even deeper in the Warner Bros. Story, because executives will always defend directors. They will not defend newcomers. They will not defend, excuse me for that term, nobodies, because Ray Fisher was just starting out his career. So it was better to step on the new guy rather than take full responsibility and do an entire investigation from top to bottom to get to the bottom of what's actually going on. So yeah.
Absolutely agree. And there was a lot to risk on, especially with what was happening and all the different changes, that I can see how that pressure could have gotten to Ray and the rest of the crew member, even the more seasoned ones. How about you, Vega? What do you think?
it's like Kareem said, it's really to no surprise. For those who were in the know, because the rumors were going around before Ray Fisher came out. But it's finally good to see Ray Fisher now coming out on it, especially when you had all these questions about or not us, but when you look online, you see everybody's questioning, well, why is he coming out now? Why barely do it now? Now we know why. Now we know why there was a delay on why he decided to speak out, because he apparently none of the cast or crew knew that them bringing in Joss Whedon wasn't Zach's decision. It was actually in fact theirs because, well, allegedly, but we all know, they had their own plans, so, when you see that, it's now at least it's clarifying a lot of questions that a lot of people had as far as why wait to speak on this. Now we know why he had to wait. And not that he had to, it's just they were just as deceived as we were from the jump, and it's just obviously they caught wind of the deception before we do, obviously, because they were the ones directly tied to the project. Now, obviously, Ray being Ray, when you watch his lives or anything he does, he's a positive guy. He's not someone who's always he's not trying to stir up anything, but he's a man of truth. And but he was clearly trying to protect those that jobs might be at risk. For him, he understands I'm just jumping into this. I have nothing to lose, but there's a lot of people on here that do have something to lose. So he obviously went through the proper channels and trying to make sure that for anybody who comes out to speak on this was going to be protected. Especially now that we're hearing more detailed information as to what was happening on set, the toxicity that was actually taking place. How, I mean, you haven't brought it up, but obviously I'm sure you will. The whole, when you look at the racial thing, situation of how minorities were taken out of the script to then add in other things, so, there's a lot there. I don't want to dive into that yet. I don't, not just yet. I'll let, you ask the questions. But yeah, as far as that though, as far as that concerned, as far as the Zach situation, how the cast and crew didn't know, now at least that brings clarity to why we are barely hearing about it from them, from them. So.
And a very good word there. Well, I want to make sure that we do clarify that this is all alleged, and it is according to the Forbes article. And it seems like Ray is holding back a lot of details based on what could or could not happen legally, especially now that we're getting Joss's lawyer making statements, which we hadn't gotten before. What do you think this also means, Haruko, that Ray is coming forward with this information on Forbes?
Yeah, I think it means we're getting closer to some kind of repercussions going down, especially now that Warner Bros. I mean, as a whole, that whole place is restructuring. The comic book section is restructuring. A lot of things are going down there, and I think like Ray said, he has to do these kind of statements to push the needle there, so to speak,
right?
To kind of egg them out of their shell, scare them a little bit. And it's real scummy what they did, to say the least. It's just real scummy. The guy, he has a family tragedy. He has to put down his project, this passion project of his, and they're releasing all these statements. It wasn't just like the fact that they lied about how he selected Joss Whedon to take over, and Joss Whedon was this savior of the movie. It's just the fact of just like the statements, they were just so slighted at Zach, like, oh well, Whedon's he knows how to tell this story. He knows what to do. He's worked on the Avengers, blah blah blah. Oh, there's only one Batman theme, Danny Elfman. It was this weird game they were playing in the media the entire time, the entire build up to the Justice League movie. And like Vega said, we heard the rumors beforehand of that maybe this was not what it seemed, and maybe because when they announced the reshoots, it wasn't going to be that extensive. And then as they go on, we hear that all right, these reshoots, they're reshooting the entire movie.
Right.
And that's not what they said at first. And then we have to learn this stuff over time, which honestly it gives credence to Ray Fisher's claims, because they lied to us. We can see the lies in public. This is stuff that we've kind of known about for the longest time, and now Ray Fisher's coming out and, you know, kind of verifying the things that we pretty much knew.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course, it's still alleged, but I mean, if you can kind of tell just by everyone's demeanor surrounding this whole thing. You know, now you got Josh Whedon's lawyer coming out, and Ray Fisher said in the article it's basically a game of them trying to decide who they can take to court and who they can't take to court. So now you've got people's lawyers coming in. It's really reaching the climax here, in my humble opinion. That's how I feel it's going the way of. So yeah, really, I think we're reaching the conclusion of this. I think we're going to find out the truth sooner rather than later.
And you brought up the lying that's been happening, especially when you take the quotes that came out back in 2015, 2016, when these reshoots were happening, and then you compare them to what we're learning now, you can really see where Toby was really kind of feeding us, not, you know, lies straight up almost. You can really see that. And a lot of that goes into the mandate and bringing this movie down to under what Zach had originally shot, and that included cutting out a lot of characters, including minority characters. So I'll bring this over to Kareem. How do you feel about Ray coming forward, and let's dive into, you know, the heavier stuff of this, of changing skin tones and cutting out characters, minority characters, which we know that at least that for sure is true. And even when you see the movie, you can see the color difference in many of the characters, especially in Ray Fisher. So what do you think about that portion of it, Kareem?
Well, to be honest, in particular to the racial matter regarding Justice League, I feel like it's a bit more broad, or I might say general than that. Like, I don't think it was, for example, a racial sabotage. I think it was an overall sabotage. I know that, for example, Cyborg's mother was thrown out of the film. For example, there was a barber that worked on the Justice League for the hairstyle of Cyborg, and Cyborg's mother that was also not accredited in the credits at the end, for example. And a lot of Silas Stone scenes were cut out, obviously. And I'm sure there were many more minority or racial, people of color that were cast aside for this reshoot. But what I think happened is not a racial thing. Of course, he did abuse and attack racially, but I mean that the reshoots itself were not or centralized around erasing people of color or minorities. It was more about creating a washed up, abominable, sabotaged view of what the Snyder world would become because of his failure to create something out of Batman versus Superman. It was a way of magnifying Snyder's mistakes, because the general audience hasn't gone deep into that Snyderverse. So when they look at the Justice League, they won't know what's happening behind the scenes. They won't ask the questions that we are asking, because obviously the general audience back then and the critics and the journalists were all against us, people like us. They were like, no, there's no such thing as Snyder Cut. This is the movie Snyder Cut Zack Snyder would have wanted, obviously. So the narrative back then was like, oh, have you seen this movie that's directed by Zack Snyder? This is obviously a bad movie. So I think what they were trying to do is to sabotage it from every corner. Okay, one of them is the racial cleansing and the minority cleansing, but there were other things that were done to him that are not intentionally racial, but more of an overall sabotage, like the Red Skies, like the erasing of Darkseid, like the erasing of Vulko arc, Silas Stone arc, the Lois Lane arc. You could say even the CGI mustache Superman, the removal, for example, of Junkie XL's score. Like I've thought about this for millions of times in my head, and I don't understand why they would replace Junkie XL for Danny Elfman. These little things make me realize it was more of an overall cleansing rather than a racial thing, because it was not just minorities and people of color that lost their jobs or got cast aside. It was people like Tom Hulkenberg, who's Junkie XL. We've got director of photography Fabian Wagner from Game of Thrones, who was cast aside. We've got Zack Snyder, who wasn't directing the movie, that got put in intentionally so people or the general masses can read his name and be like, oh, this awful looking movie is Zack Snyder's. So yeah, I mean, And if you're going to go all the way to cleanse the movie from people of color and minorities, I would go as much to question why is Ezra Miller still in the movie, since we know he's a queer person, that he's into all these groups and he's very open-minded. So for him to keep Ezra Miller, I feel like it's not an attack against, for example, sexualities, people of color, minorities. It's more about the overall consensus of that thing. Sorry, I spoke a lot, but
it's very good. It's I think it's important to get different opinions on exactly what's going on here, especially since we don't have very specific details yet, or at least confirmations until something legal happens. I think one of the quotes here, Vega, aside from expanding on this, but more specifically, he did say that prior to Justice League's reshoot process, blatantly racist conversations were had and entertained on multiple occasions by former and current top-level executives at Warner Brothers, end quote. Do you feel that is one aspect to the filming changes that happened in Zack Snyder's Justice League?
Okay, so to what you just said, and to piggyback off what Kareem just said, clearly the overall scope was to sabotage the whole project. But obviously, I think when they're like right now zeroing in on that comment alone, when he's saying that, he's just stating certain facts that happen, facts to the nature of that business. Not necessarily saying that was the only thing used to throw the project off. I wouldn't necessarily use Ezra as a defense to that, because I mean, they still kept Ray Fisher on. I think when it came to the main characters, Josh knew they can't just sabotage that wasn't in order. So, you can't really just attack everything just because now you're on the project, and free reign to do whatever you want. It wasn't going to be that easy. These things happen very discreetly. And now I'm glad we're talking about this, because I personally, for myself, like someone who's, I've worked in companies and businesses and corporations, wherever, where, the overall hierarchy are, Caucasian white men, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
At best, maybe you can find some Jewish guys there, at the top of the food chain. But, when you look at the lower class of the grunt work, a lot of it is the minority, whether you're Latino, whether you're Black, whether you're, hey, whatever, Chinese, Arab, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, represent. But personally, for myself, my own experience, I'll tell you this much. I experienced something like that where, the thing is we have to understand, when it comes to this business or politics in general, there's always two sides. There's the side of guys who probably have their head on straight. They want things to happen correctly and justly. But then you always have the other guy who has the agenda, who wants things to go the way he wants it to go. From my own experience, I had a boss of mine, white guy, cool guy, and he had a lot of plans for me, high hopes for me. And he would tell me like, hey, Mike, this is what I have a plan for you. I want to move you up to management, blasey. So that's what we're going to work on doing. And what had happened is the company I worked for had just gotten bought by this other company. Now, the other company apparently had other plans. And when you looked at how their management was structured, they did not have not one like minority as a manager. Like, there was no Black guy, there was no Hispanic, no Arab, nothing. It was just all these white guys. But in our company, there was. But a lot of them started getting off. Like, you gotta go. Then they made it, and then the same way you see here, they made it seem like these people were leaving on their own initiative, like they had other business opportunities. Come to find out, as I reached out to these people later down the line, it wasn't that. In fact, it was that they were pressuring them to get out. And then to the point where it came down, it even happened to me. Like I said, I had my boss, white guy, he was really trying to have me move up, but the guys who had just bought us out, that wasn't their plan for us. And they didn't, honestly speaking, you could tell they didn't like the idea of someone like me, a Puerto Rican, being in charge of what they had going on. In charge of management. Even though I was not to boast, but I was one of those guys. I got the job done. So all that to say, these things do exist. you know, even in Hollywood, you know, and probably even more so in Hollywood in a I guess business that, even though it's somewhat similar to all these other business models, but it's its own beast. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you know, definitely when you're looking at these statements that he's making, it's not to be taken lightly. It's not to be taken as if, oh, he's just saying these things to push a narrative. No, I very much believe him when he's saying these things, because these things do happen. They do exist. And when you look at the evidence, it's clear. But again, not saying that was the overall intention of the sabotage, but that was part of maybe Josh Whedon's agenda, maybe the way he directs and takes over projects. Because when you look at that article, I think they even mentioned how he had similar tendencies when he was working on Buffy and other projects he was working on, that he has this tendency of, you know, I guess being somewhat of a racial profiler or a womanizer and things of that nature. So I think when he's touching on those topics, especially in this article, I think it's referring to certain individuals, not necessarily the entire company of Warner Brothers. And I think he even touches on that like he's not up against the Warner Brothers. Like that's not his mission. He actually says, like, you know, he likes Warner Brothers as a whole, because, you know, there's projects he has with them and other than Justice League. But what he's looking for is that for these specific individuals that he's naming out by name, that this is the problem with them, you know. And yeah, it's a lot broader than just the racial thing, but zeroing in on that is a factor that we have to consider when it comes to what they did in sabotaging Justice.
Yeah.
You know?
How about you, Haruko? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, like Vega said, especially in Hollywood, this stuff goes down. I mean, racism is subtle. You know, it's not like you know, racists just come out and express themselves in these extravagant ways.
Right.
It's subtle. Like, yes, they have Ezra Miller in the movie, but his role is still cut down significantly. Like, his original character arc is nothing like in the Zack Snyder movie. He does not have as many cool highlight scenes. He has like one scene where he's running in slow motion, and then that's about it. And the other times his character has really nothing to do with the Flash. He's scared to fight people, apparently. He's only run away from people and all this. They have Gal Gadot in there. They have the Flash. They have that disgusting scene with the Flash falling on top of Wonder Woman. Mm-hmm. They have provocative shots of Wonder Woman. I mean, it's very subtle, and especially in Hollywood, because, you know, we just got out of a whole thing in Hollywood where a guy was like molesting women and nobody said anything. Dozens of people knew about it and nobody said anything about it. And that was in Hollywood. That's in the Hollywood elite. So, I mean, absolutely, it's a factor that needs to be considered. Knowing how many roles they cut out. And yeah, of course, not all of it were minorities, but really the ones that were like crucial to character arcs, like Cyborg's mom, crucial to his character arc. Yeah. They cut it out. It's not even the same Cyborg as what we were shown in the first couple of trailers. I can't even argue it's the same character. Definitely, like Kareem said, it's not the whole thing. You know, it really is like a bigger sabotage, more like to just change the identity of Zack Snyder's universe. You know, it is more, but it I'm trying to phrase this in a way of
you're making sense.
It's cohesive, but yeah, it's political. It's and really it's just disgusting. But the racism is definitely plays a role in the bigger picture of it, so to speak.
Yeah. And I did think it was interesting how the narrative changed from the people that were against whatever Ray was saying, you know, a couple months back. And now it's gone into, you know, it went from he's trying to make a career out of this and trying to kind of build himself up. And he finally came out. And at the end of this Forbes article, he said, quote, "I'm not worried about the consequences. I'm well aware of what's at stake. If people don't want to work with me because I'm refusing to tolerate abusive behavior in the cover of culture, then so be it," end quote. So he's just kind of being like, look, if I don't have a career after this, that's fine. I just need the truth to come out, and I need the right people to be held accountable. And I thought that was important for him to get that out. What are your thoughts on that? We'll jump to Vega, and then we'll go to Kareem, and actually Vega, Haruko, and Kareem.
Okay. Yeah. Again, it's great that he touched on everything he touched on in that Forbes article and ending it on that note because, obviously that's a lot of the claims right now. He's just trying to use this as publicity. But like, there's not, the funny thing is like, what do you know he is working on currently that he has anything to gain from this? Like nothing.
Exactly.
He has nothing to, he's not even working on any projects right now. This is his project. You know what I mean? What he's taking on right now against this company, or not against the company, but against these people, trying to make sure that this is finally addressed. This is what he's focused on right now. This is his focus, apart from like what he uses to, I guess, keep the networking going and, maybe keep himself busy while time, when he's got the free time, you see his Twitch handle and things of that nature. But apart from that, his sole attention is on this, which for anybody who's got a sound mind, should speak volumes to. The fact that he said, my career that could pay me handsomely well is going to be put on the back burner so this is straightened out. Because in the end of the day, I think he even knew the beast he was about to start tackling. And there was just no way possible he was going to be able to do two things at once. No way possible. Hence why, even when it comes to, other cast members or crew members, the reason why not everybody's really able to come out is because they do have projects. They have other things going on. So it's not necessarily that they're not supporting him. It's just, again, something like this does require your full attention because the business is shady, the business is sneaky, and one false slip, they catch you slipping. It's a wrap. And Ray's like, nah, not having it. You guys are not gonna be able to, paint this narrative that I'm using this for my own gain. Which again, anybody who's really watching Ray Fisher and what he's doing, you would know he's speaking the truth because again, he has no projects lined up. There's nothing else going on in his life but this very thing that he, courageously and bravely decided to put on his shoulders and say, going forward, I want this narrative to change for any actor coming after me, where this won't have to be the battles they have to face, where there's, inequality, where there's greediness, agendas, being driven. And I mean, clearly like the whole beast in itself is bigger than just a racial thing. It's definitely one of the things, but it's bigger than that. And, I think to end on this, I'll say, I think what we're seeing here, specifically with all the parties involved, is their own agendas is toppling over each other. Jeff Johns probably had the agenda of, I want to take over the DCEU, maybe. Joss Whedon said, oh, sure, I'll take over the project. And he had his agenda of what he was going to do with the project going forward, and other people who participated clearly in this all had their own agenda. Probably thought, okay, we came up together to make, kick Zach out, and anybody else we want out, we can make it happen. And it just didn't work out in their favor in the end. And now the truths are all toppling on top of each other, and they're all sinking in their own, lack of a better word, their own shit. You know what I'm saying? So that's the way I see it, though. I'm glad he ended it on that note, and it brings clarity to the fact that, look, he ain't about the cloud. This is from the heart. This is from the heart.
Exactly. As you mentioned, Ray's a very smart guy. He's doing this full time. He's being very careful, not only so that the truth comes out properly, but there's a lot of legal stuff that's going to be involved moving forward. Over to you, Haruko.
If Ray Fisher loses this, he doesn't just lose his career, but he loses his integrity as a person. This isn't just about him now. This is about the culture of Hollywood as a whole. This is about how they treat their workers, how they treat minorities, how they treat newcomers. This is so much bigger. This is not a selfish act by Ray Fisher. This is not just about him. So when people say, "Well, he's doing this for clout or for attention," I'm so baffled because really it's the exact opposite. I mean, he has those people at Warner Bros. They have everything to lose. They have. There's going to be so much legal repercussions, so much just so much backlash. It's going to be a nightmare for them if what Ray Fisher is saying is true, and if what he's saying is false, then Ray Fisher, his career is over, and as a person, probably it's going to ruin his life. So he's putting a lot on the line in the name of truth, justice, and the American way. he's putting a lot on the line, for not just himself but the other cast members of Justice League, the other crew members of Justice League, for Zack Snyder, for the Snyder Cut, for everything. And like Jason Momoa straight up came out and said, these guys, they lied about the Frosty the Snowman thing. They released this fake statement to try to draw away attention, and that says that's got to make you think, if you don't believe in what Ray Fisher said, that's got to make you think maybe there's something to this. Maybe there's something more to this. Maybe it's not just about him trying to get attention. Maybe it's not just him trying to steal the spotlight or whatever really crazy and weird stuff people are claiming he's doing. What a bunch of idiots there. But the fact that Jason Momoa could come out and say that and just outright call Warner Brothers out on their BS. I mean, come on, guys, it's insane. They released a fake statement about a Frosty the Snowman. That's the best they could come up with. They could have come up with anything else. That's the best they could come up with. And it specifically had Jeff Johns in that announcement. I mean, come on. It's ludicrous to even just assume that everything he's saying is false. This is all just Ray Fisher. He's trying to race bait. Oh, that's a good term, race baiting. Yeah, great. Great analysis there, guys. That's a great rebuttal. You don't actually disprove anything he's saying. You don't look into what he's saying. You just read the headlines, racing. You see the headlines, racing. You see the word black and or African American, and automatically you assume it's all about race baiting.
Right.
Just. I have to hold my tongue on this one. It's so silly to assume that everything he's saying, every single thing he's saying, he's just making this up. When we see them stepping over them, so we see them panicking, releasing these statements. We have investigations lying. I mean, Jason Momoa literally came out and said, yeah, they lied about this thing. So who are you going to believe? Why are we suddenly believing the multi-million-dollar corporation full of scummy executives who have screwed people over for years and years and would have continued to done it if nobody said anything? I mean, it's hilarious to me. Ray Fisher, I mean, he's a warrior for what he's doing. That's really all there is to it. He's a warrior for what he's doing. Win, lose, draw. He's got a lot of heart. He got a lot of balls, and I'm supporting him 100% of the way. That's fucking that. That's all I got to say.
No, exactly what you said. The way the studio has been behaving and acting towards each of these headlines says a lot. The big one you brought up, of course, was the Frosty story. Over to you, Kareem.
I think what I can get out from this story is that Ray Fisher's war is the one he's having right now. From the Justice League cast, you can see how each one diverted into their own path and their own war, maybe an internal war or an external war. Like, for example, Ben Affleck, he had the drinking problem, the suicidal attempts problem, divorce with his wife. He went to rehabilitation. He gave up the mantle of Batman, which is, for me at least, the highest honor in the world. You could see that, for example, Superman's performance was mutated or mutilated, whatever you say, and then he was slowly thrown out of the role of Superman for a while there. He was ignored. You could go to Wonder Woman and say that she went in on her own. She lowered her head. She went in with Patty Jenkins since she has a female director's backing. And each one had his own war. And Ray Fisher's racial war was the biggest war, because I think this movie, this movement, this universe that Zack was building was the most important for Ray personally, because Ray was just starting out. Ray was given creative freedom for Cyborg. Ray was given a lot of importance in this movie, a lot of empowerment, and this is Ray's war. So for me, for Ben, Ezra, Gal, etc., to not have said anything to support, I think they do support him, but I think they have enough on their plates. For those who are wondering why are the other Justice League members not intervening, I think it's because they're caught up in their own world, because God forbid they've been through a lot as well. So I think, for example, at least it's how I imagine it, Ray probably picked up and called Zack Snyder, and he's like, "Hey, I'm going to do this step, and it's seriously going to cause a dent in my career." Nevertheless, I think Zack supports what Ray is doing, but Zack has also been through a lot because of Justice League. I feel like this movie was extremely cursed. A tragedy happened midway through set, and I won't repeat, but Ben Affleck, as I said, Gal Gadot, everybody went through something on this set. So I think each one is either in the process of healing or they've already healed and they've had enough of the trauma that they went through. So now I think it's time for Ray to show us how he's going to deal with the trauma of Justice League, with the whole lawsuit and investigation, etc., etc. And I'm honestly very proud of him, how he's standing up to this corruption, how he's standing up in the face of all those who are wronged him. Let's not forget the whole Harvey Weinstein scandal and the Kevin Spacey scandal. It took them 30 years to man up and say something, because Hollywood is horrifying. Some people say that there are things that people like us would never understand. There's death, there's like threats, there's theft, there's a lot of things that go on that make people afraid of coming out and speaking out against these Goliaths or beasts that are the executives or the corporate world of Warner, DC, whoever the hell is in charge of all this. So, for example, maybe Jason Momoa didn't approach this the way Ray Fisher did. It's mainly because when Justice League came out afterwards, he did Aquaman, so he had a project going on. But after his project came out, after he got the confidence, he played it differently. He played it with a strategy. He got the confidence. He got the love of the fans. He got the approval of his director and of Warner Brothers. So when he felt like he was bulletproof, literally bulletproof, you could see him, man. He went on and hugged Zack Snyder, gave him a camera, and he's like, "This man, I am nothing without him." Then he released a Snyder Cut teaser online before Warner Brothers said so. So he doesn't care for their approval. And then he sees his good friend Ray Fisher getting harassed by the very people who have hired him. He's like, "No, I'm not going to let this pass, and I'm going to come out and say something." He has nothing to lose because he became bulletproof. Ray Fisher's stance is he's got everything to lose. He's not bulletproof. He's the mortal hero, and Aquaman is like Achilles, maybe. And they're standing side by side, and yeah. So I think, in summary, it's Ray Fisher's war against Warner Bros. Now. It's his internal and external fight, and everyone else has had their war. Everyone else has had their fair share of blame, of problems, of trauma. So I think, yeah, I mean, I wish him all the best. That's it.
Yeah, it's going to be a very fascinating couple of weeks based on what else comes out of any future articles or interviews with Ray. But before we get into some positives into the future of the DCEU and more specifically Zack's project, we did want to discuss what James Gunn recently said, and this more or less speaks on more of the behavior that Warner Brothers still has in how they handle these projects. And the main thing is that James Gunn mentioned that Kevin Feige we know he was on set for The Suicide Squad and apparently knows a lot about maybe not just this film, but maybe more to the point where Warner Brothers has an NDA on him. I saw the funniest tweet on that was, "Oh, well, all the secrets are safe. He has an NDA, no problem." But we know what that means with Warner Brothers and the other side. So how effective, or what do you think this means in how they handle their projects and what this speaks on with Warner Brothers? We started with Vegas, so we're going to move and start with Haruko.
Yeah, Warner Brothers, get your shit together, man. This is ridiculous at this point. I mean, all the rumors about just greenlighting Civil War when they announced Batman v Superman, and how Civil War apparently was close to the original plot of BVS. This is insane. I mean, you can't let your competition get on the set of your movies. What the heck is this? This is incredible. This is like Sega in the 90s letting Nintendo just waltz in their office and say, "Yeah, here's everything we got coming out in the next few months. Here's our plans for our next console." This is like so low IQ Neanderthal stuff from Warner Brothers. Just gotta let Kevin Feige. We're talking about Kevin Feige, the head of Marvel Studios, walk onto the set. He's just taking a look around. Oh no, he knows the entire movie. Well, when something goes down, when they steal another one of your plots, another one of your movies, and they get all the credit for it, well, then you know who to blame. I mean, this is just terrible management from honestly one of the doofiest companies out there. I mean, the doofiest studios out there. These guys really, they just don't know what they're doing anymore. I mean, God bless them, but man, kind of hurts my head sometimes just thinking about the stuff they do. How I feel about James Gunn is just another story in itself. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it speaks to the incompetency of the people in charge of Warner Bros. I'm still astonished. When I first heard about that, it's just, I had to stare at the wall for a couple minutes and think, because that is kind of ludicrous that he knows so much that he had to sign an NDA.
Right.
What? What did you do? Did he show him a cut of the entire movie while he was on set? I mean, wow. It's so baffling to me. It's so baffling to me. All in all, man. There's no other way I can put it. It's just the stupidest thing. It is not something that you do to your competition. You are at war with these guys. I don't like to say, oh, the DC Marvel war is not real. This is war. This is a competition. Yep. Superhero movies are a market. You are competing to be the box office king. The MCU has lost its stamina after Endgame. Everybody knows that. It's kind of
I don't know that. Excuse me, I don't know that.
It's not going to be as hot for the MCU as it was before. So this is your chance to strike. This is your chance to go at your enemy. Instead, you're letting them in on your secrets. Great job, Warner Brothers. Everyone give a round of applause, man. The greatest, guys. These are masterminds here.
No, I agree. It's more of that old behavior and it doesn't fill me with confidence either, at least in that portion of it. Kareem, it sounds like you had a little bit to say on the MCU stuff, or even maybe on this Kevin Feige visit.
Oh, no, it's not that I have anything to say about MCU. I love the MCU, and I think it's coming. It's going to be amazing for the years to come. I think they've planned out at least 3 more phases, and that's something amazing. And they've changed their strategy and diverted into another marketing tool. I can see that in Fortnite, they've announced Galactus and Doctor Doom. So I think they're marketing the next phases of Marvel through the biggest market share in video games to the mass audience through Fortnite, let's say. So I don't think they're in trouble. I think they've paved out an entire roadmap of how they're going to go about doing their MCU. And now I think it's just taking a break, doing small shows, tiny bits there, tiny bits that, and then eventually it's going to blow out into a multiverse of its own as well. That's what I believe. And God bless them, at least, even though it's not my cup of tea, they've made people happy. They've gave us at least a linear, constructive, consistent storyline that's spread out over 10 years, which has been unprecedented in cinema, so I have nothing but respect for them. Now, for the Kevin Feige problem or conundrum, I have no respect for Warner Brothers for doing what they did, because you're coming from a place of weakness. You're coming from a place of inferiority. You've just lost a big war in the cinema market, in the comics market. You've lost a lot of fans. You've already lost a lot of respect because of what you've done with Zack Snyder. You've also lost self-respect by selling out your DCEU slate and revamping it into B-list movies. Like, hey, we're going to do self-contained B-list movies about Harley Quinn and small-time characters because we're not focused on continuity. I don't understand this mission statement. I don't understand their objective, and I don't understand what they were trying to do. So for Kevin Feige to be coming on set or sets, God knows, even after the Joss Whedon thing we just talked about, this only smells of trouble. Why would you want your biggest enemy of cinema? I'm not going to call him a real-time enemy, because I'm sure Kevin Feige is a good guy, and he's been in the industry for 10 years working for Marvel, and he's apparently juggling all these different jobs as producer, creative consultant, etc. So God bless that man, to be honest. But for him to be popping in and out of DC sets and being around what's going on with the DC world, you don't need Kevin Feige. You're DC. You're Warner Bros. I know they've had their fair bit of corruption these days, but you're Warner Bros. You were one of the biggest studios in the world before Disney. And DC Comics does not need anyone. It does not need the validation of Kevin Feige or Joss Whedon or even Jeff Jones. DC Comics is the highest honor and privilege one can arrive. There are millions of people that can, like, that would be honored to visit that set that are more important to DC. You know what I mean? People like old veterans from the DC comic book artists, maybe old actors, maybe old directors like Christopher Nolan. I don't know, maybe people like Guillermo del Toro, maybe James Cameron. Invite creative people, invite people who have had a dent on the industry, an impact on the industry. But Kevin Feige, no. God, no. I mean, the whole thing with Batman versus Superman Civil War, that was an obvious. I wouldn't say he stole our idea. I mean, Civil War ended up being better than BVS in terms of the general audience, not us, obviously. But it's just that you don't have to show Kevin Feige your cards, right? And finally, for James Gunn, I'm going to say something a bit controversial. I like this director. I know there were claims about him being a pedophile or racist. I don't believe that, to be honest. People can be a bit too much these days on Twitter and like slam him just because of tweets he had like 10 years ago. And I'm very excited for his Suicide Squad movie for a lot of reasons. I love Guardians of the Galaxy. When I watched that movie, it struck my heart in ways I never thought was possible because I never knew who the Guardians were, and he introduced me to them. And I see his passion for Suicide Squad. And the fact that there was a new report that came out that said he got the offer of directing a Superman movie and he rejected it. That says a lot about James Gunn. He wants to direct a Suicide Squad film. And Warner Brothers trusted him so much with that film. And I believe, according to what I've read, it's going to be one of the greatest movies in history and not just in DC. I can see it going as far as that. And I love that John Cena is in the movie, that Idris Elba is in the movie, that he's introducing these weird characters like Polka Dot Man, Ratcatcher, the Weasel. Like, I love it. I love his energy. I love his dark satire comedy, and that's me. I mean,
Oh, I'm glad you're excited for the future DC projects from James Gunn. I know that's one I'm going to personally pass on, but how about you over Vega? What do you think about Kevin Feige jumping on?
Okay, so
Yeah.
a lot of ground to cover. No, but overall, yeah, it was a bad move for sure. I think what they were attempting was a political move. I think they were attempting to disguise this idea that Marvel and DC are pals, that the competition isn't really there. But I mean, I don't know who they were trying to kid. Personally, in my opinion, I don't know if you guys ever saw the Hollywood Reporter Roundtable segment where they had a bunch of execs from all different studios. If you guys watch that, it is clear that there's relationships that exist between studio houses, between like certain individuals. Not necessarily that it's like Warner Brothers shakes hands with Disney all the time and whatever, like nothing like that. But it's clear to me that there's people, because the thing is, these execs, they've been moving from studio to studio. We just don't know their whole report. Now, I personally believe, especially now more than ever, why we see things like that happening is because there's a lot of execs at Warner Brothers that are right now kind of pridefully hurt, and they feel the need to maybe show that we don't care what everybody else has to say. So we're gonna, yes, have a Disney Marvel exec dude come over here on our set to see the movie. I personally believe it was execs in Warner, but which we're kind of getting that already, you know, even with what Ray Fisher's bringing out. But it's clear that when you look at guys like Jeff Johns, Toby Emmerich, they have relationships with Disney. Now, I think personally, for a while now, they were feeding off information. When you look at the entire phase 2 after Civil War, going into their phase 3, a lot of their story plots mimic what we saw in already the movies we had and that of which we knew we were supposed to get. Is just told with their lens, the way that they tell their stories. Which, and now, again, not that I'm against Kevin Feige or anything like that. I don't know the guy personally, so I can't say he's a bad guy. And, like Kareem said, what they've accomplished is something. I won't necessarily go off to say that Civil War being better or proving to be better than BVS proves that it was a better movie, from the general audience perspective, because I feel at that point they built their general audience. Like when you already look at the movies coming out after like the first Avengers, their movies were already making good numbers because they created that culture of bringing in people to see their movies. So I think when you get to that point of their films, it's like they kind of were already, they had a consistent customer base of people that were willing to go see their films. While the DC was barely on their second film of creating an extended universe, right? Mm-hmm. So, I can't say that that's the way I would look at it, but what I am looking at is the story plots do match that of what we knew we were supposed to get. Which I think personally had certain individuals at Warner Brothers not had their own agendas, and they would have let Zack do his work. We would have seen Zack accomplish what it took the MCU to accomplish in 20 films. He would have done it in 5, maybe 6, including the films that we got on the side with David Ayer's Suicide Squad. If we would have gotten that true work of art, version. Now, again, MCU, they do their thing. When it comes to that, I feel like Warner Brothers did not know what they were doing with DC. They were with their heads cut off, so to speak, which is kind of confusing because, you would think they saw what Nolan did with the Dark Knight trilogy, which, when you look at The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises, did phenomenal.
And Batman Begins, please.
Yeah. But I mean, when you look at, like, I guess if we're judging it by the numbers, Batman Begins was a starting point. Once you got to Dark Knight, they reached the billion mark. You know what I'm saying? Dark Knight Rises reached a billion. So you would think that was their confidence of saying, okay, we still have a way of presenting films opposite of Marvel that consumers are interested in. Zack comes in with Nolan on top of that, with Man of Steel, and even that was better than that Superman Returns film that we got with Brandon Routh, which, not to knock it, I'm just saying, like, Man of Steel, I think progressed.
Was not even close.
Yeah, it was a progression of the character. It was an evolution of the character that we really needed. The same way Nolan, because let's be honest, the reason Nolan's Batman trilogy was prestige was because it was an evolution of the character, like separate from the Tim Burton, separate from, although the Batman films we got prior to it, it stood on its own, and I think that's why it was appreciated going forward. And I think had they allowed Zack to do the same, they would have seen the same results. They just, at this point, I'm not even like, at first I thought the narrative was that, they were afraid because, they weren't seeing the billions, but now I'm more convinced it was just that there was people working at Warner Brothers that had their own agendas. I believe they're tied in with Disney, personally, in my opinion. Like, again, you have to really see that Hollywood Reporter roundtable I'm talking about. Toby Emmerich is like super cool with the rest of these dudes. And he was the one representing Warner Brothers on that round table. So I really believe that's what we saw happening. And I believe certain people within Warner Brothers were selling off ideas, profiting on the side, and hence why they needed to stomp out whatever Zack was trying to do so that whatever they were dishing out could not appear like they were dishing it out, if that makes sense. Except to their dismay, they didn't succeed. And they didn't know that there was going to be a very loud group of fans, due to
vocal minority.
Yeah, vocal minority, as that puts it, who connected with this new social media networking that we have nowadays, this technology that allows us to connect and realize, like, we all came together and said, something happened here, right? Something happened here. And, we came together and it just backfired on them. And now with the Ray Fisher thing and all that, we're seeing the backfire of it all. And, and here I am on a tangent, but all that to say that I think when you see that James Gunn, Kevin Feige thing, I think it's just execs at Warner Brothers who still have ill intentions. And personally myself, I like Kareem. I have nothing against James Gunn. I personally am interested to see his take on the movie. Again, I'm a fan of diversity. So I like seeing different takes on things. I personally think the studio would have been better off saying, no, you can't do a Suicide Squad because we already have a Suicide Squad. I think that would have been a more integral way to approach it and say,
Absolutely.
If you don't want Superman, what else do you want other than Suicide Squad that we can give you or offer you? Because we don't want to disrespect David Ayer and those
Which
who
they already did. Yeah.
Which they already did, right? So that's probably why they didn't care. But that should have been the route they went with that. So I can understand people are refusing to see Suicide Squad from that standpoint. But personally, myself, I'm interested to see what James Gunn is going to do. I like how he films or how he shoots films. Do I think it's better than Zack's? Not personally. Personally, to me, Zack Snyder is on a whole nother level. And that's with a lot of like Nolan, Zack Snyder. There's just a lot of directors I put on a higher pedestal, than someone like James Gunn. But not to say that James Gunn isn't a good director or isn't good at what he does. But yeah, definitely a bad move. I guess I'll just end on that. It's a bad move,
Yeah.
Bad. Sorry, guys.
No, this is great. This is your show for all three of you here. So I love the tangents and the extra, the critical thinking we're really getting into. And I agreed with a lot of what everyone said here. The copying happens in the comics and the shows. So the films won't be an exception. Anyone that doesn't believe that, they're willingly not wanting to see it. But let's go into something a little more positive here with what the potential future of what the DCEU is and how we're kind of getting kind of a cathartic correction and going back to what we were getting with the Snyderverse. And I think a big sign of that is the return of Jared Leto's Joker, Joe Manganiello's Deathstroke back in for additional photography in Zack Snyder's Justice League. So start off with Kareem. Do you think that this means, one, we're getting the Ayer cut confirmed, and two, do you think this means that the Batman is back on track?
Okay, that's one of the best topics chosen for tonight.
Yes.
I'd love to have more than a few words about it, if I may. I'm so happy first of all, for Jared Leto, because I've tweeted something in the last week, and it's gotten a lot of traction. And I said in that tweet that Jared Leto is an Oscar-winning actor. He's a kick-ass rock star, and he's an amazing human being with a lot of passion, energy, and soul. And if people, or the clout brigade, as I call them, want to judge him on a 7-minute performance of an already butchered and destroyed and mutilated movie, then I don't know what to say. So when I hear that Jared Leto is going to be in a movie directed by Zack the Man Snyder, then even if it's for 1 minute or like a dream Ben Affleck sequence, I don't care. I'm happy for Jared. The fact that he's even okay with coming back after how Warner Bros. Dealt with him for the Joker situation about Joaquin Phoenix and all that, that means Jared Leto must have been very passionate about the mantle of Joker, about taking on that mantle. And he's also very passionate and respectful of working with someone like Zack Snyder, because Warner Bros. Did wrong with Jared Leto, but Zack Snyder is doing a Warner Bros. Kind of movie. So for Jared Leto to get the approval and say yes and go back to working with that in a production studio at Warner Bros., that means that Jared Leto must have a lot of respect for Zack and a lot of excitement for what's coming. Third thing I want to say is that I'm so happy for Joe Manganiello, who we also did not have the opportunity of seeing his amazingly costumed Deathstroke go full on, the whole potential, the whole rundown. So I'm very happy to see what they have in store for us in terms of Deathstroke. Now, to address what this means going forward with the Snyderverse, how I've envisioned it and how I've always envisioned it, and that's thanks to one of my brother who's always told me to see the positive in all of this. He like predicted this 2 years ago, and he used to tell me, "You'll see, they're going to continue this Snyderverse." I'm like, "You must be tripping, or you're like in an alternate dimension, because that's never gonna happen." But from what I see, I mean, cinema is half dead, and I'm a person of cinema. I love cinema, and I hate to say that. And HBO Max kind of they have a golden gem in their hands right now, because if cinema is dead, that means Marvel is kind of dead. You're not gonna see Captain America or Spider-Man or any of the Avengers or upcoming ensemble movies for Marvel for quite some time now. So the best way to strike at the lion's heart for me is to continue the Snyderverse on TV, which is now the biggest, most lucrative way of attracting customers, because people in cinemas will criticize things like Batman v Superman, Justice League, DC content, but when you're sitting at the comfort of your home, having nothing to do, let's say doing, I won't say that word, but anyway, sitting at home, and you open your HBO Max and you find out there's a 4-episode show about Justice League. That's a much more lucrative thing for mass audiences, general audiences, because general audience want to watch things at their own comfort. Zack Snyder movies are heavy. They're very complex. They're layers above layers above layers. So it's not everyone's cup of tea, but when you divide that into 4 episodes, when you can watch it at your own leisure, at the comfort of your home, it's going to be a beautiful experience. I'm very happy for Zach that he gets to do that. And that also means that Zach is giving us the cherry on top of the cake. It's not just the cake anymore, it's cherry. Just like Lex says, it's cherry. So I think that HBO Max want to take advantage of the fact that they own the biggest characters in the world: Batman, Superman, Flash, Wonder Woman, Cyborg, Aquaman, etc., etc. They have these great characters, so why wait for Warner's incompetence to use them on screen when they can have a Snyderverse on HBO Max? They have the money, and in order to make money, to make this platform popular and rich enough and in demand, they need to put money. You have to invest money to make money in 5 years' time, or God knows when. I foresee the Snyderverse going in Game of Thrones style now. You know, like if rumors are to be true, maybe Harley Quinn is going to join, maybe Ryan Reynolds' Green Lantern is going to join, maybe Amanda Waller is going to join. So I feel like if this is successful, a season 2 of Zack Snyder's Justice League will commence, and we're going to see much more than what we bargained for, and much more than Zack even bargained for. Because it feels like just about now it's the only right move to make. It's the most common move to make.
Yes.
And that's all I have to say for now. The one last thing I would say is that the more time passes, the more I feel like our beloved Ben Affleck, aka Batfleck, is coming back, because Zack has no reason to bring back Joe and Jared, because they simply have a very small role and they serve no purpose in the Justice League. Well, we all love to see them. They have no real purpose, you know, except, at least for me, setting up a Ben Affleck solo show, miniseries, limited series, whatever you want to call it. No, that's about it.
That's exactly right. I agree. There's definitely an intention behind this. Over to you, Vega.
Yeah, man, Kareem, you're awesome, man.
You too, man.
So yeah, just to piggyback off of what he's saying, Jared coming back as Joker is definitely cathartic in its own right. Um, you know, full transparency, when I first seen Suicide Squad, I wasn't a fan, just because it was different from the one I guess clinged on to. But when I kept watching the film, I understood that if there was going to be a Joker in this modern day and age for that universe they were creating, it would be that Joker, you know. And then sadly said, that we didn't even get the full version of that Joker. So, but him coming back to the project speaks volumes. Joe Manganiello coming back speaks volumes. I think personally, uh, I don't want to say necessarily. One, I want to say Joker coming back to me says Ayer's cut's coming. Because like Kareem said, HBO Max now holds a lot of great cards in their hand. You know, if they were playing poker, they're holding they got a great hand right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's just about playing it right now. And you know, especially because, you know, we're kind of like at a standstill with cinema, with theaters. You know, COVID really put a stop to a lot of that. And right now, streaming wars is heavier than ever. Um, so yeah, HBO Max is holding a lot of the cards now, and probably more so than what Warner Brothers has in their deck. You know, even though, yeah, granted, they're all under the Warner Media AT&T umbrella, but for sure they probably had projects lined up, and there's a lot of political things going on behind all that for sure, the politics behind that. But I think us seeing that does let us know HBO Max has every intention of trying to get the Ayer cut. And I think it does let us know that HBO Max has every intention of doing something with Ben Affleck Batman. Whether it's his own solo movie or whether it's his own series, I'm not so sure. I was having, like I told you guys earlier, I was having this talk with some of the guys on Sil's channel, that Coffee Talk or channel he has on YouTube, and we were talking about it a bit. And one thing that is clear is that Ben Affleck already has like a slate of other projects other than Batman coming up.
Mm-hmm.
So logically thinking about it, what actually makes more sense right now, knowing Zach and what he said in the past, is when you were given the opportunity to start shooting, you shoot all your bullets. You know what I'm saying? You shoot them all, because you don't know what you're going to use, what you're not going to use. You don't want to say, I'm not going to shoot everything because I'm going to wait for the next project. He says, no, I'm going to shoot everything now so that I have everything in hand ready. I might not use it all in this film, but I'm definitely going to use it in the next coming film, right? So with that mentality, I personally think, especially with the talks of, because there are rumors already that the JL2 is already being greenlit by HBO Max. What I personally think, with everything that I'm hearing, HBO Max knows they have a great content in their hands with DC characters. They already took the first step by saying, okay, well, Warner Brothers doesn't want you, we'll bring you here. So let's bring in Zach. He already got the following for it. There's fans that are ready to see his film. They see the same fans asking for the Ayer cut. So that's going to come too. I know that for a fact. And so what I think we're going to see here is, like Karim said, this is going to be, because again, we're talking streaming here. If, like I said on the other channel, if this was going to come out theatrically, then the series wouldn't make sense. But we're not getting a theatrical version of this.
Mm-hmm.
This is specifically an exclusive for HBO Max. So why not get the bang for your buck? Meaning, you're going to do additional shots, right? Shoot everything. Meaning, the JL1 plot, the JL2 plot. Hey, you know what? Hey, Ben, we were supposed to get your solo film before JL2. Why don't we shoot some of your story plots and add it into this storyline that we're just going to create for this platform? Like, think Justice League animated series, but live action, directed by Zack Snyder. You know what I mean? Meaning, you're not going to just see Justice League, like just surrounding Justice League. He is going to take the time to create story arcs for Flash, for Cyborg, for Batman, for Wonder Woman, for Superman, for Green Lantern,
Mm-hmm.
for Martian Manhunter.
Yep.
He is going to take because now he has the time. They're saying, do a series. You get what I'm saying? He's got more freedom now than ever to go bonkers with the ideas that he has, because it's a series format. He's got, like, you know what I'm saying? It's not like he's limited to a 3.5-hour, 4-hour window. This is them, like, you know, hey, what you had initially was probably 4 to 5 hours. Run that, make it a series, right? Because it was Matter of fact, it was his idea anyways. You know, if you watch recent interviews with him, he said that the series idea was his idea, his sales pitch to HBO Max, right? So knowing, dude, Zach's a genius, and knowing the way he films, he said it before, he shoots everything. I feel like that's his intention here is this Justice League series that we're gonna get for HBO Max exclusively. Think of it like the Justice League animated series. You're gonna see some episodes that might be centered around just one character, maybe to give you more, just more detailed story plots that make more sense to the overall story arc. You know, that's what I think what we're gonna see here. More so than I guess these actors like Ben Affleck or maybe Jared Leto getting their, or David Ayer for that fact, having their own individual moment to shoot their stuff. I'm not so sure if there's enough money for all that, but they definitely have the bag, and we already see that they're willing to invest in it for this. You know what I'm saying? For this. And why not take advantage that they're already paying us out, they're giving us the green light. Why not just house it under this? You know, and I think that's what we're gonna get, in my opinion. Just because, again, logically thinking, these actors do have other things lined up. Ben Affleck, especially, for sure, has other things lined up. I'm not so sure if he can squeeze in, being able to shoot his the Batman movie we knew he was supposed to shoot, and probably considering the fact that they already, greenlit. I want to say they greenlit the trilogy for the Batman, Matt Reeves. I'm not so sure they want to do too much Batman continuity out there. Yeah, it's cool to have different versions, and that's why they're implementing that into the whole Flash, right? The Flash movie. But I don't think they're gonna go all out and say, "Hey, let's give you a solo. Let's give you a solo. Let's give," you know what I'm saying? I'm not so sure they're gonna go that crazy with it. I think it's gonna be more controlled, more thought out, and I think that the way that's gonna happen is we're gonna see Ben Affleck's story arc of Batman, Cyborg's story arc, Flash's story arc. We're gonna see all that be improved or built on in the Zack Snyder Justice League series for HBO Max. That's how I see that happening for that project, for sure. But yeah, I don't want to take too much time.
Yeah, I think regardless of how we end up getting this or any projects in the future, I'm confident in saying that unless Zach felt comfortable in doing it, he wouldn't do it otherwise. So whatever we end up getting seems to be under what Zach wants to do. Over to you, Haruko. What do you think the return of Joe and Jared means for the future of the Snyderverse?
I think it's a matter of when Ben Affleck is making his grand return as Batman rather than if. And like Vegas said, it might not be in the capacity we're expecting, but I'll take any capacity, man. You guys know me. I love Ben Affleck. That guy's such an inspiration to me.
Same here.
I have so much love for Ben Affleck. I'm not really it's controversial, but I'm not really into the direction that the general DCU is going. I'm not really into comic book movies that much anymore like I was when I was in my early teens, when I was watching like Man of Steel and stuff, which really got me into it. I read comic books a lot more recently, as I did when I first started, but I'm not really into the whole I'm not really into comic book movies. I haven't been big into comic book movies outside of DC. I don't think ever, besides Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. I don't never really watch the MCU. I watched like 15 minutes of Guardians, 15 minutes of Endgame. I watched Winter Soldier. I'm not really into the whole comic book movie, the general idea of it. I like films that kind of push me as a character, and I leave the theater like thinking, how it relates to my own life as opposed to, whether it was a fun movie or it made me laugh. I think about it more introspectively when I go to watch movies, and how it relates to the world. I know that's not what everyone, not everyone wants the realistic telling. Yeah, I get that. But I'm saying from my perspectives, and that's why I am so into this Snyderverse, Ben Affleck's Batman. And I did like Suicide Squad. I have to say that. I was a big fan of Suicide Squad when I first saw it. So I'm excited to see the DCEU that because we used to call it DCU back then, believe it or not. We used to call that the DCU. I know it's the Snyderverse now, but we used to call it DCU. And that is what I fell in love with. So I'm happy. Really, it brings me great joy to see that coming back, and that's what I'll be watching. And I hope that's what we get, because I have no plans to watch the Suicide Squad or the Batman or whatever 7 Harley Quinn movies they have coming out. I have no desire to watch them. I have no plans to watch them. I couldn't care less. But this is what I, much like Ben Affleck, this is what I signed up for. I signed up for DC content produced by Zack Snyder, because the way he tells those characters, the way he treats those characters, I think he treats them with so much more respect than we see in movies like Birds of Prey, like what they did to Cassandra Cain. I think he takes these characters, and like you guys said earlier, with Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, he evolves them, and he transforms them to relate to us. And just the idea that even if it is a 5-minute cameo, a one line that Jared Leto speaks, I think it's a big statement. I think it's big because it's telling us that, Zack Snyder is going to shoot what he wants, and he's going to set up what he wants, and we are getting way more than we originally thought. We're getting something bigger, and I think it adds credence to the rumors that this Snyderverse is going to continue on HBO Max. So I think it's a big thing that Jared Leto and Joe are back on the project. I mess up his last name every time I say it, so I just don't say it. But Deathstroke, Slade Wilson is back on the project. Doesn't mean Ben Affleck's coming back full force. We're gonna get a Batflick HBO Max series. The selfish part of me hopes so. The selfish part of me hopes. The realistic part of me is like, well, they have this Robert Pattinson thing now, and even though I personally don't care about it, it is what they're doing. That's the reality of it. It's the direction they're going in for Batman. So, more in tune with what Vegas said is probably the road we're actually going down. But I'm still proud of it because I know how much this meant to Ben Affleck as a person. I know how much it relates to his personal journey, and I know that he loves the Batman character. I know his kids love to see him play Batman. It sounds kind of silly, like he is the actual Batman. To me, he is. So yeah, it's great to see Bruce Wayne put on the cowl in any capacity. That's just the first thing I thought of when I heard that Leto and Joe were coming back to the project. And I'm really intrigued to see in what capacity. We kind of have an idea of where Deathstroke is going to fit into this, but I'm really interested to see what kind of capacity Joker is going to be in this. Jared Leto getting his Joker moment. And I think that the little time he had in Suicide Squad, I didn't hate it. I'm honestly, I thought I didn't have a problem with it. I didn't particularly think it was awful because of his tattoos or his laugh, which I think that's an odd thing to judge, is the Joker's laugh. It's a laugh. Everybody laughs different, but that's neither here nor there. I came out the theater impressed, and then I saw the extended cut of Suicide Squad, which added 5 more minutes of Jared Leto. I was like, okay, that's fine by me. I still enjoyed it, but I am eager to see more of what he does as a Joker, no matter how long it is. I don't really think the length of the performance will bother me. It's more of the quality of it, what he has to work with. And as we know in Suicide Squad, even if they cut down most of his scenes, I think it's more of the quality of the scenes that a lot of people were not, as someone who loves Suicide Squad, I think it was more the quality of the scenes and how much they changed the movie, which didn't resonate with people. But if we see Jared Leto's Joker in a project that, is written by Zack Snyder, and it's not chopped up and skewed, and it's not set to fit a certain audience, and it's just exactly raw Jared Leto Joker, I think a lot more people will be behind it. Not that I care what people think of Jared Leto's Joker. I care about my opinion more than anything. And I think it'll be great to see Jared Leto because when Suicide Squad first came out, everybody knows he was he said it first. He was like, yeah, they cut down my scenes. This wasn't all that I had for the Joker. He was devastated at the reaction. So it'll be great to see him finally getting that poetic justice, so to speak. And I think that's the story of this Zack Snyder Justice League thing. Everybody's getting their justice.
Mhm.
Justice League, you know. But yeah, that pretty much covers how I feel about that.
Yeah, it's amazing how things may not have gone how we expected 5 years, 3 years, a year ago, but it seems like the Snyderverse, at least, is the future of it is bright and alive and well. And I know I, for one, am really grateful for that moving forward. So we have a very positive outlook, I think, with what's going to happen with the Snyderverse. We've got closing thoughts if you want to plug where people can find you, and any closing thoughts on maybe something you wanted to definitely say before we close out today's Snyder Cut Round Tables. So moving it forward over, starting with Vega.
Yeah, man, I think, one, appreciate you guys having me here. Gentlemen, phenomenal talk. I guess closing thoughts would be, you know, let's be happy, man. Let's be happy we're getting the Snyderverse. You know, I never really quite understood the idea of like you have to like downplay something else to like praise what you like or things of that nature. I'm really not into that business of things. You know, for me, it's like you like what you like, and that's how it works, right? You know, so you know whether you are excited for the Snyderverse and not the DCU, awesome. But if you're excited for more of the DCU than the Snyderverse, hey, cool. You know, it is what it is. But me personally, I'm excited for what we're seeing. One thing that I totally forgot to mention that we should have like probably discussed it. I don't know if you guys heard about this. There was like an interview with what's his name, Amari Hendrix, who's in Army of the Dead.
Mm-mm.
And so I came across this interview where they were interviewing him about the project, working with Zach, and the cool thing is that there was talks. They ended up asking, like the question was something along the lines like, you know, seeing that you are working with Zack Snyder and he does work on DC, is there any comic book character you would like to play in the DC, you know, and something along those lines. And he's all like, so this is what had me confident about what I'm about to say, because it's how he answers it. Is he says, oh, I have a top character that I would love to be. And he's all like, and I don't, he's like, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to get in the way of what the studios have to do to promote these things and how they're going to go about this. But I will say on set, Zach said he sees me playing a character, and Dave Bautista whispered it to Zach and occasionally would say it out loud on set.
Okay. John Stewart?
I'm just saying. Omari Hendrix, John Stewart Green Lantern would be sick. And one of the things he also says is like, considering the role he plays in this film of Army of the Dead, it is a military type character, army and all that. So he says something along the lines of he showed what he can bring to the table playing that character. So do with that information as well. But for me personally, I want to say he's hinting at the fact that there's talks about him playing John Stewart Green Lantern, which I do not oppose whatsoever. And again, I think it just falls in line with this idea that I really think what we're going to see in the future is Zach is going to probably tackle this thing, you know, being able to literally work on each character one by one, building their story arcs, you know, giving us that complex storytelling he does. You know, one thing that did come to my mind was also, you know, if this is what HBO Max intends, it's smart because, you know, when you look at, you know, Disney with The Mandalorian, it works. You know, it's a movie style, you know, filming, right? But it's broken down into episodes. And one thing that I kind of find cool about that too, from time to time, is how they do the different directors being able to like direct each episode, which gives it different takes for different storytelling. I could see them doing that here too. You know, what if What if the talk is, hey, David Ayer, you want to kind of like expound on what you were going to do for one episode to again bring the full story we were supposed to get. You know, you see them doing that with that. Netflix has done the same thing with their projects. There's this new thing where it's just like shooting these series movie format, but breaking them down into episodes episodically. And I'm cool with that. You know, yeah. Granted, of course, I would have loved to have like gone to the theater, have my popcorn, my soda, you know, and just nerd out watching this and just geek out over just Zach's work, you know. But I'm gonna take it as it's coming, and with everything going on, it's the way to go. It's smart for business, and it does truly give Zach and other directors more creative freedom than what it would be for them to try and appease and appeal to Warner Brothers, being the guys overseeing their projects. So yeah, man, I'm excited, and I'm excited for everything though. You know, yeah, the Batman, I'm excited for it. I'm excited, low key more for Matt Reeves. I know he's a good director, and what I saw in the trailer was dope. So I'm curious with that. I think looking at it, to me, it looks like it might be I don't know, just my theory. I feel it's gonna be somewhere along the lines of the Hush storyline.
Yeah, it is.
That's what I'm thinking. Which if anybody who knows about the Hush storyline, it's a dope storyline. Even if you saw like the animated movie that came out, I think it's more gonna be along those lines with the Riddler being Hush. So either way it goes, like I'm excited for that. You know, I'm a big fan of that storyline and Batman in general. So I'm excited for that. Suicide Squad, you know, I'm more excited just to see what James Gunn is going to do with it. Similar to Kareem, I like the actors that are in there. I want to see how they play those characters. And what else? I mean, Black Adam, I'm excited for that too. The Rock doing his thing there. Personally, in my opinion, this could just be me, you know, and I'll end it on this note. And if this isn't what it is, Warner Brothers or whoever's in charge of making these, making these things come to fruition, take notes. I feel like, let's just say they let Zach do what he's gonna do, and it takes off, and it's gonna take off. It's gonna take off. I feel like if their intentions was to do this connected universe, you know, it still could work. Personally, in my opinion, I think it would be that when you're just looking at the timeline, you just have to understand that the events from Man of Steel to like the ending of Zach's story, all that just takes place before a time of Shazam coming into the picture and Black Adam. Like where Darkseid's going to be the big bad to end this phase. If they're concerned of still making sure it's connected, the next phase and the next big bad would be Black Adam. Because clearly The Rock wants to face the Justice League. He's been clear about that. So I want to see that. I personally would like to see him take on Henry Cavill Superman, Ezra Miller Flash, Jason Momoa Aquaman, Ben Affleck Batman. You know, I would like to see how that team would have to, you know, come together to face up against Black Adam, who, if you're familiar with the character, he's a team buster. He is. He is in his own right. Maybe not as of a threat as Darkseid, but he is a team buster, you know. So I would be interested in seeing something like that, you know. And that's just me though, you know. That's just me. So.
And how about you? How to go? Closing thoughts on the future of the DCEU, Snyderverse, whatever it is.
I know the news of Toby Emmerich has a lot of people down. I just want you guys to know, since I haven't been on Twitter to make any kind of statement besides the one tweet I did make about it. Don't be discouraged. Don't see this as a big loss. Don't see this as the end of the world. There's still a long way to go. We've still got the Snyder Cut coming. And potentially projects after that. It's not a total loss. It is a bummer that they put this buffoon as ahead of any position. Right. But we have to remain strong. We can't give up. We can't just go down in the dumps, especially after how far we've gone. Because we've been through a lot worse than that. I mean, we've been through Comic-Con 2018. We've been through a lot of crazy times in this community, in this movement. And to see that as a loss, I think it won't do us any favors. So we just have to lick our wounds, whatever wounds you might feel, and pick yourselves back up, because we can only go up from here, in my opinion. I mean, I'm just looking at things optimistically. I think we can only go up from here. The Snyder Cut is coming next year. Support it. Do what you have to do. Watch it. Get the word out there. Get your friends to watch it. Get your family to watch it. Get your boss to watch it. Get anybody you know to watch Zack Snyder Justice League. Buy them HBO Max. Get people to watch this movie. Because
I don't live in the USA, so I can't.
Right. When we find out the international plans, we're going to get you guys involved. Okay? I promise. Everyone's going to get a piece of the pie. Everyone's going to get it. And when the future of Zack Snyder's Snyderverse, Zack Snyder's vision for DC depends on the success of this movie. So don't let any news that comes out, don't let it discourage you. Don't let it destroy your will. You gotta be Hal Jordan in a sense. You gotta have the willpower of the Green Lantern. So you gotta just go for it. You gotta lick your wounds. You gotta pick yourself back up. And we're getting the cut. So really, there's not much damage he can do to us right now. Zack Snyder is virtually untouchable. I swear, if anyone tries to go in the editing room and tries to do anything to Zack Snyder, Zack Snyder is probably gonna flatten him, so to speak. They're not touching Zack Snyder's movie. I can promise you that. We have not gotten this far for some buffoon executive to mess this up.
Facts.
Yeah.
Secondly, I want to say that as far as the future of the DCU goes, I know everybody has their opinions. Everybody has their different viewpoints on this. And going back to what Vegas said, if you want to support one over the other, that's your choice. But if you want to support both, then you can do that. Whatever you want to do is your choice. Don't let anybody guilt trip you, try to tell you doing this is wrong, supporting this is wrong, but not supporting this is wrong. Not going to watch this movie is wrong. You as the consumer, you as the customer, have a choice as to what you want to see, what products you want to consume. It is literally in the name consumer. It is up to you to decide this. Basically what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of factions. There's a lot of people, attacking others for what movies they choose to watch and not to watch. I think it's important to say that we have to, no matter what, we can't be dicks about it. Okay. If you don't want to watch this movie, you don't have to watch this movie. You don't want to support this part of DC, you don't have to support this part of DC. It is your choice. If you just want to focus on Zack Snyder's vision for Justice League, just want to focus on the Snyder Cut, and then you're out, good, fine. That's your choice. So just to kind of ease tensions that have been going on, at least from what I've seen on Twitter, day after day with arguments.
I feel personally attacked here.
No, it's not a personal attack. It's just more like extending the olive branch to whatever sides of the movement there are. Letting everyone know, if what you want to do is just support Zack Snyder, that's fine. You're not any less of a fan of DC Comics than anybody else who decides to support what movies they want to support.
Thanks.
I think that covers all my bases there. I don't really get into a tangent about that, but you're in the clear. I'm not going after you. You're in the clear, actually.
Enjoy that Pringle, man. Enjoy that Pringle.
Yeah.
And closing thoughts, Kareem.
Well, to pick up on what you guys said, I think what I'm very excited about is for the world to go back to normal so we can get back out and support cinemas in general. That's something I really miss and definitely eager to see, because for me, there can be no DC without Marvel, and there could be no Marvel without DC. I need to see both. I've always been a fan of both, and don't get me wrong, I would bleed for DC, but I would definitely do the same thing for Marvel. Now, for the Zack Snyder universe, I'm very excited that I'll be watching it in the comfort of my own home, because after the BVS experience and the trash talk I've heard in theaters and outside the theaters, I'd rather just enjoy it with my own eyes, in my
Oh,
own
yeah.
comfort zone, in my own room, with my own settings, resolution, choice of drink, choice of smoke, choice of food, all of that. All of that will be covered because of what I choose to do, and with the people I love and the people that love watching the Snyderverse. Now, for the rest of the DCEU, as Karim, I've always been a fan of everything. I know executives tampered with Snyder's vision, David Ayer, Rick Famuyiwa, and all these people, but there are a lot of cast members who are not to blame, like Robert Pattinson, Zoe Kravitz, Colin Farrell. They're not part of the Snyder sabotage, or like John Cena, who's just making his debut in the DC universe. He's not at fault for what happened to Snyder and David Ayer. He's just an employee, just like any other cast or crew member working on the Gunn films. Black Adam, because The Rock is one of my favorite actors, and I'm very excited because of his passion for the project. And I'm gonna get bullets for that, but I love Shazam. I love the movie itself. I love David Sandberg, the director. I feel like he did an amazing, heartwarming movie that not a lot of people agree with me. I know that, but it's kind of
Hey, don't worry, Kareem. I agree with you.
yeah. Like, I don't know what's wrong with me, but I just like everything. I really like everything. I have this button where I can enjoy Marvel, I can enjoy DC, I can enjoy everything and anything. If I put my mindset, I could shift my mindset and enjoy something and then phase out and enjoy something else. That's just me, I mean. And hopefully, all we have to do right now is just wait out the COVID storm until we get the Snyder Cut, and hopefully not get fired from our jobs or our schools or universities. God bless you all, guys. Love you all very much. And good luck to Ray Fisher if he ever gets to this podcast. And thank you for hosting me. And also, I just hope Ben Affleck comes back and Henry Cavill comes back. And one last shout out to Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor, because Lex Luthor is my favorite comic book character, even more so than Superman or Batman. And I would love to see just the blue and red against the Lex Luthor in like a Superman movie. Like it would be called Superman, and I could see like Lex Luthor holding a kryptonite in his hand and just stabbing Superman with it. I know that's violent. I wish I could see that on screen. That would be my dream. And also to submit everyone to the will of Brainiac, which means I want him in a Superman movie. That's all I'm going to say for now. Thank you, guys.
Amazing. All right. Thank you all so much. Go ahead and give your plugs. Where can people find you in case they want to continue this conversation? Kick it off with Haruko.
Yeah, if you guys watched before, you know where to find me. Haruko Hitomi on Twitter. That's HarukoHitomi. I think I said that right. On Instagram, it's the same thing, but that's Vero. On Vero, it's the same thing, but instead of Haruko Hitomi, it's Haruko Hitomo, because I don't know why I just made that. I have no idea what I did there. I wasn't thinking. And then on Instagram, it's the same as my Twitter handle with an extra I at the end. I don't post a lot on any of those. I'm not. I haven't really been on social media that much lately, but I'm trying to catch up. I'm trying to get more involved and more active. So it was good to get on here and talk with everyone, and for everyone to see this face again, and this smile, and and my craziness. Thank you guys for putting up with me for the hour we've been doing this, and it's been great to sit down with you guys virtually, so to speak, and just give our thoughts on and give our takes. It's great to get the insight of other of my peers in this community. Absolutely, no matter what things we agree on or disagree on, it's just good to hear other people's opinions. So thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you. And Kareem, where can people find you?
My Twitter handle is MIASANKRONOS. That's me as and Kronos. We are Kronos. And on Instagram, it's EZ, the number 4, KARIM. So that's EZ4, KARIM for madness. Yeah. So that's about it.
Awesome. And finally, where can everyone find you, your music, everywhere, Vega?
Thank you for bringing up the music part because I totally forgot to squeeze that in earlier. Let me say, if you go on any streaming platform right now and you look up hashtag the Snyder Cut Anthem, any streaming platform, whether it's Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube, if you look up hashtag the Snyder Cut Anthem, you will find a song that I recorded. The beat was done by St. John of S Beat House, a homie of Mr. West Ashley on Twitter. He's the one who connected us. It's a dope project. It literally is a thank you and like an appreciation, a celebration of the whole movement. When I say the whole movement, I mean the whole movement. I understand that at this point in time, for whatever reason, I know that and there probably are good reasons, but all I know is that there's like a lot of, sides and division and all that. But when this song was recorded, it was recorded with the intention of celebrating the whole movement. I give shout outs to a lot of people that they probably don't even think I shout them out because they probably think I'm sided with somebody, but like erase that from your minds. Just know that this music was to celebrate everybody. And know that if you are streaming this and if you buy it or whatever you do, know that all the profits that are going to be made from this song, I personally am going to make sure that I donate it back to the AFSP
my man,
thing, because that's what this was all about anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not looking to make a buck of any of it. Just and I even said it on Twitter. I'll record myself, screenshot record everything that I'm doing, the movements. You're gonna see how much money it's made. You're gonna see that same amount of money. You're gonna see me put it into the AFSP because that's what this was about anyways. So that's that. As far as my Twitter handle, it's this Vega the boss on Twitter, which altogether, nothing in between. And this is actually TH, not DIS. It's TH. It's this Vega the boss. On Instagram, it's similar. Just take the this out, and it's just Vega the boss. If you look for me on Vero, you can find me as Il Divino Vega. Il being IL, Divino with a DIVINO, Vega, all together. And on YouTube, same thing, it's Il Divino Vega. Yes, there's a meaning behind it. My name is actually Michael Angelo Vega, and Il Divino was one of Michelangelo's aliases, and he was an artist. So, it's a play on words. So that's why I went with it. And it's not that I think I'm divine or anything. I think that's about it. That's where you can find me. And if you go on any platform, you can find me in the music streaming. You can find me as Vega, or I think on some it's Michael Vega. You should be able to find me.
Awesome. And then for mine, I'm on Twitter at Reasons I'm Broke. But for a link on everywhere you can find my wife and I, which is my podcast co-host, Kelli, just go to thereasonsimbroke.com and all the links will be on there. I do want to say it's been an absolute pleasure. Every single one of these Snyder Cut Round Tables have been extremely strong, and that's because of the passion behind all of these guests. All of you are what make every single one of these amazing and great. So I want to say I appreciate all three of you coming on for this one, and also everyone in the past that's hosted, guested, has done any one of these, and to everyone that's on here in the future. Make sure to subscribe to the RTSC YouTube channel right here for more Snyder Cut Roundtables. Thank you all once again, and we'll see you on the next one.
Yeah, hopefully.
Thank you guys. God bless
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Bye-bye.